So it's been a couple of weeks, and it looks like the Nightmare Critters aren't the main antagonist of Poppy Playtime Chapter 4, if they're in it at all. Instead, being replaced by the much more terrifying Yarnaby. But I had already set up that the Nightmare Critters were going to become Power Rangers in the story, so yeah. Let's create some chaos.
I wouldn't do that if I were you. We haven't even gotten a chance to play yet.
The Rangers turned to face the voice. Approaching them from a ways down the hall were 8 figures dressed in similar animal-themed suits. Except these ones were more grotesque and nightmarish. All the friends immediately took combative stances, except for Doug, who was still in the doorway of the principal office. He gave one last look at Carl before he hesitantly stepped back in the hall, ready to fight. The 8 nightmarish creatures continued down the hall, some walking, some flying, and one even perched on the shoulder of one of the larger ones. Doug and his friends all stood their ground, but several of them were visibly nervous. The Black Ranger, whose suit resembled that of a sheep, even containing tufts of fur around the head and neck, hopped down from the green one's shoulders. She pushed through the group and approached Doug, who was at the back, closest to the principal's office, where his friend Carl was unconscious and chained to a desk.
Looks like everyone's here. Almost.
The Sheep Ranger turned her head to look into the office. Doug couldn't help but follow her gaze. He had no idea how he could undo the chains, and with this new adversary standing right in front of him, it was now nigh impossible for Doug to rescue their friend.
7 against 8 hardly seems like a fair fight. That's a shame. And the others promised me this was going to be really fun. Oh well. At least I tried.
With that, the Black Sheep Ranger headed back towards her group, except when she reached them, she didn't stop. She continued past them, walked down the hall, and disappeared around the corner. Doug and his group of friends looked at each other, confused at what just happened. The Nightmare Rangers, on the other hand, looked more disappointed. They hung their heads, almost as if it had been a hassle to get their companion to even show up to this confrontation. With both sides now down a member, Doug and his friends resumed their fighting stances. With such big players on the opposite team, the fight was still tipped against them. If they wanted a chance to rescue their friend, they were going to have to give it their all. Are you ready, everyone? Kevin, Hops, you take the green one. Bobby and Bobby, take the shark-looking one. Everyone, give it your all. Carl is counting on us. With those final words, Doug and the Rangers rushed toward their nightmarish counterparts, with 4 of them pairing up to take down the bigger ones, and the remaining 3 filling in the rest. Doug found himself up against a purple ranger who was dressed like a raven, who was attacking him from above. He was doing well blocking, but the raven's attacks were too fast for him to get any offensive hits in. To make matters much worse, he was hit by an attack from behind. Turning around, Doug saw the black and yellow frog-esque ranger clinging to the wall slightly above him. Doug regained his stance and went back on the defensive, this time against 2 opponents. While he was able to hold down his own for a little while, the frog and the raven were able to break through his defense and land blow after blow on Doug. He fell to the ground, not willing to accept defeat, but too overwhelmed to stay standing. The frog and the rangers continued to attack Doug, despite him already being knocked down. Doug couldn't think of a way to get out, when suddenly, nothing happened. Doug could still hear the sounds of the battle all around him, but his own assailants seemed to stop attacking him. He waited for another blow, but it never came. Instead, through his cracked visor, Doug saw a green hand offer itself up to him. He took it and was back on his feet again, face to face with Hops. He turned to look, and a little ways away was Kevin, standing over the frog and the raven, both of whom were knocked out and tied up on the ground. Thank you both. The frog got the jump on me, and after that, I didn't stand a chance. I knew you two would make quick work of Big Greenie.
If only. Big guy barely put up a fight. Quick work is an understatement.
What do you mean? Well, initially he tried to fight us off by wildly swinging his arms in our direction, but eventually he just stopped. We hadn't even gotten any hits in at that point. He kind of just gave up, like he couldn't be bothered to keep fighting. He threw up his hands in surrender, laid down on the floor, and I think he might even be asleep now. Doug looked around the hallway, and sure enough, the big green ranger that resembled an alligator was on his back, his chest steadily rising and falling.
Hi!
A voice cried out from behind the three friends. They turned around and saw that the frog that had been attacking Doug had woken up and was thrashing against the ropes, keeping him tied to his raven ally.
This is so unfair. We only lost because it was the three of you against only two of us.
Doug walked over to the frog ranger and knelt down to talk to him.
Come on, let's go again, round 2. Iggy Frog will beat you up like there was nothing. Just watch. You'll fail spectacularly.
I don't think so. My friends only came to level the playing field after you and your friend ganged up on me. Now, tell me how to wake up our friend and get him out of those chains. Iggy hung his head, finally realizing that his boisterous challenges weren't getting him anywhere. He looked around at the rest of the battle and, seeing that he was on the losing side, looked down at the ground before answering Doug.
My suit is capable of emitting a coffee-like scent. That should be enough to wake your friend up.
Doug looked from Iggy to Kevin and Hops for an indication of what to do. Should they trust the guy who bested Doug with a sneak attack? Unfortunately, it may be the only option they had to save their friend. Kevin helped Doug untie Iggy, and along with Hops, they escorted him into the principal's office. Doug made sure to keep Iggy at a safe enough distance away from Carl, where Iggy could use his scent without being able to strike at Carl. Iggy pressed a hidden button on one of his wrist cuffs and held out his hand towards Carl. A dark orange mist began pouring from his fingertips, followed shortly afterwards by a potent coffee scent that made Doug, Kevin, and Hops recoil from the strength of it. Carl, on the other hand, didn't react as suddenly. At first, he only stirred as the scented mist reached him. Eventually, he opened his eyes and slowly lifted his head. He looked around, confused, taking in his surroundings before noticing the 4 people dressed in animal-themed suits and the chains around his wrist. Carl began hyperventilating as the full scope of the strange situation set in. Where was he, and what did these oddly dressed people want with him? Almost immediately, Doug was by Carl's side, paring down his suit so his friend could see his face. Hey, it's okay, it's me. Kevin's in yellow and Hops is in green. Don't worry about the frog. We're here to help you. Long story short, our principal was replaced by a rogue AI and they kidnapped you. There's some weird lady with a lab underneath the school who gave us these power morphers that could turn us into Power Rangers. We found you, but before we could get you help, Frog and 7 others showed up to stop us. Everyone else is outside, still holding off the others. A large crash from outside the office shook the room, and all 5 of them looked at each other. Doug helped Carl get the chains off his wrist, and they all rushed out of the office. The other 4 Nightmare Rangers were now on the ground, alongside the Raven and Alligator-looking ones. The newest member to join the list of the defeated was the big shark-like ranger, with Peggy sitting on top of her.
Hungry girl here bit off more than she could chew. You got Carl. Awesome.
Doug and Carl approached the others, alongside Kevin and Hops, who were keeping an eye on Iggy, when Poppy spoke to them through their helmets.
Nice work finding your friend, Rangers. I didn't pick up any trace of the prototype in the office, though. It could be anywhere right now. Keep your guards up.
Understood, Poppy. Carl, you're gonna want to take this. Just in case. Doug reached behind his back and pulled out a power morpher with a crescent moon shape on it, and handed it over to Carl. Unsure of what exactly to do with it, Carl hesitantly took it, as Doug explained how Carl was to use it to get a Power Ranger suit of his own. Carl nodded, and he and Doug powdered up their suits, forming a circle with the rest of their friends to keep an eye out for the prototype.
I knew you two would fail spectacularly.
That's a shame.
The lights in the hallway began shutting off one by one, until Doug and the rest of the Rangers were shrouded in darkness. None of them were able to see that far in front of them, but they were able to hear the sound of a kick through the darkness.
Ow! See you, Rangers. You should have never underestimated the great Iggy Frog.
The frog escaped. Don't worry about it, Kevin. Focus on locating the prototype. Poppy, do these suits have anything that can help us see?
Yes. There's a button on the side of each of your heads to activate the lights located on top of your helmets.
Each of the Rangers followed Poppy's instructions, and 8 sets of lights cut through the darkness. They looked up and down the hall, but didn't see any sign of the prototype. Only Iggy and the 6 other Nightmare Rangers.
Let's play Power Rangers.
Suddenly, a giant, spindly hand emerged from the darkness. It had no flesh, and its bone structure seemed to be made out of metal. The hand dug its needle-like fingers into the ground, separating the Power Rangers from their nightmare assailants. A shrill noise made the Rangers recoil as the hand pulled its fingers back, taking not only pieces of the floor with it, but the 7 Rangers as well.
No, help us. We can't die. Not yet. Please. Don't let it make us a part of it, please.
The frog pleaded for help, but all the Rangers just stood there, too stunned to do anything. It wasn't long before the frog and the rest of them disappeared into the darkness.
Was that? Yeah. I think that was the prototype.
A massive tremor shook the building, knocking the Rangers to their feet. Sunlight filled the dark hallway as a large hand ripped off the roof of the school building. Towering over the building was a massive amalgamation of metal parts. It easily stood over 70 feet tall and looked like it was made up of a ton of different broken down machines. And at the end of one of its jagged arms was the spindly metal skeleton that had taken Iggy and the Nightmare Rangers.
Rangers, that's the prototype. It seems it's been gathering bits and pieces from the surrounding area to build up its form. Hang on tight. I'm sending your Zords now.
Another rumbling shook what remained of the school as the floor began to split open, releasing 8 large mechanical animals, each one corresponding to Doug and one of the Rangers.
Hop on in. Once you're all in your respective cockpits, press the large button and you'll combine to form the Megazord. That should be enough power to take down the prototype.
You heard Poppy. Let's go, team.
The Rangers all hopped into their respective Zords and pressed the Megazord button. Each of the mechanical animals began to move and shift on their own, connecting with one another until forming a massive robot that stood even taller than the prototype itself. The Rangers, now in a joint cockpit, piloted their Megazord to swing at the prototype. Despite its massive size, the prototype was a lot faster than the Megazord. It easily dodged their attack and parried with one of its own. The Rangers all recoiled as the controls sparked from the damage.
Your turn to die.
Pieces of scrap metal snaked their way down the prototype's arm, wrapping around the needle-like fingers and shifting into a giant blade. The prototype used its speed to land even more hits on the Rangers, causing the Megazord to take critical damage.
He's too fast. We need to slow him down. But how? It's a machine. It's not like we could just put it to sleep.
Kevin's words caused Doug to remember the events from earlier in the day, when he, Kevin, and Hops had defeated Iggy Frog.
Maybe we can. Huh? Think about it. The frog was really adamant about not becoming a part of the prototype, meaning that despite all the metal around it, there has to be at least some organic material in there. Poppy, the frog mentioned his suit was able to emit a scent. Are all our suits able to do the same?
Yes. Each of your suits are able to give off their own scents, each with their own unique properties.
Do you know if any of them can be used to help put someone to sleep?
Let me see. Yes! It appears Carl's suit has a lavender scent that has somniferous properties. Your Megazord is able to diffuse gas. If Carl is able to load some of the lavender scent into it, it may be able to amplify the effects just enough to affect the prototype.
How do I do it?
There should be a loading canister on the far wall of the Megazord's cockpit. If you hit the button on your wrist cuff, you should be able to release the scent from your suit.
Okay. I'll give it a shot.
Carl found the loading canister, put his arm into it, and pressed his wrist cuff. Almost immediately, the canister filled up with a deep red gas. Carl removed his arm from the canister and joined back with the others who were piloting the Megazord. A light indicated that the gas was ready to be used.
All right, here goes nothing.
Doug pressed the button, and the red gas spread all around the Megazord. The prototype was preparing to deliver the finishing blow. He launched himself towards the Rangers, ready to strike. But as he reached them, his bladed hand did a little more than poke the Megazord, before the prototype itself fell to the ground.
It worked. It worked!
Way to go, Rangers. Now finish him off.
The Megazord raised its fist and drove it through the prototype's body. The metal scraps making up its giant body fell apart, once again obeying the laws of gravity and putting an end to the prototype for good. I think this round of Poppy Playtime Power Rangers turned out a lot better than round 1. Experimenting with the different sizes of characters really made the piece seem more cohesive. I was also trying out a new technique for line art and rendering this one, and I kind of like how it turned out. I might go forward with that. And there we have the first actual concluded Power Ranger story on the channel. The other two, they ended in cliffhangers. But thank you all so much for watching. I really enjoyed making this piece, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this new art style I'm trying out here. It's not a complete departure from my usual things, but I think the rendering techniques fit my cartoony style a little bit more overall. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you want to see other videos from me, I highly recommend either the other Power Ranger series, which was some very early work on the channel, or of course the fan favorite Voice Actor Fusion, which may be making a comeback pretty soon. But that's all I've got for you today. My name is KyngPin Creations, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everybody.